你好，大家好，我是瑞安平，现在是瑞安平漫谈。我今天是5月27号，我想做一个特别节目，把这个可能节目会做稍微长一点，请大家理解。首先呢，今天那个郭文贵先生在视频中做了一个视频，里面主题是请战友一起反击所谓的文贵海外维稳民主人士的阴谋，所以我觉得这个是一个非常紧迫的事情，所以我今天赶快做了一个特别节目，特别邀请了我的先生那个他待会儿会自我介绍一下，用英文那个来告诉大家如何写这种信给这个各国的政要。在我先生讲之前呢，我先说一下这个视频的主要内容，就是有几个网友他总结的非常好，我告诉大家一下。一个是这位网友让我有这个想法，就是启迪了我的想法，是高尔特，感谢你。他说，郭文贵先生5月27日的直播说明中国的委内瑞拉化越来越近了，盗国贼的战术已经穷尽，最后一招就是要让美国人相信郭文贵实际是中共的人。这阴谋他需要海外民运人士配合，而那些海外接受美国人权组织经费而被停发的经费的人，疯狂的给美国政府写信告状揭发郭文贵。大家都知道，包括滕彪等等这些人，就是做了非常荒唐无耻的事情。那我觉得，既然这些人他们会写，那我们也会写啊。我们要告知，我们要大声疾呼，告诉那个真相。关键在于怎么写，对吧？这是一个。孙雨成这个网友他写了一个，就现在呢，盗国贼、海外欺民贼相互勾结，给文贵先生造谣，说文贵是中共派的海外维稳的，这个是非常荒唐可笑的。大家都知道，郭文贵先生的家人到现在，他的哥哥还被扣押在那个监狱里面，他的每一天都要损失将近800万，然后他的那个没办法回去跟他父母亲相见，这等等，他怎么可能呢？这就是按照 common sense 都不可能，更何况有这么多的证据，所以我们得把真相告诉大家，我们得积极主动的动起来。然后这位孙雨成说，给以下部门写信，要让他们知道真相，呼吁一个是美国议员卢比奥、中国民主基金会、美国移民局、司法监察委员会、军事情报委员会等等，大家可以上网查一下这些地方，然后给他写。今天呢，就是先呢让我先生，为什么我想着要让我先生告诉大家，就是怎么写，因为之前我也尝试着写一些信给这个什么议员啊等等的话，他看完以后就说，他的感觉就是说，我们写要抓住重点啊，就是说那具体的他怎么写呢？他告诉大家好不好 ？OK， 好 ，please，my
Please,
lovely husband.
what do you want me to do?
Okay, I hope that you can introduce yourself first.
I'm Reverend Dr. Ronald Ryan. I have been a teacher for all of my life. That was as a classroom teacher, as an administrator, as a person in a supervisory position, a person in an evaluative, a personnel evaluation position, as a high school counselor, as a counselor of teachers, as a counselor of individual adults, as a marriage counselor, and as a minister in the pulpit. And in all of those positions, I have been a teacher. I have a PhD in psychology. I'm a full member of the American Psychological Association. I have a doctorate in theology. I am an ordained Unitarian Christian minister. I'm a little bit awkward this evening because my wife here asked me about a half hour ago if I would do this. That provided absolutely no time for thinking or preparation.
Do you want I kiss you? Because you told me you love China and Chinese people more than me, right?
As much as.
As much as, okay, good.
So where do you want to begin?
Anyway.
In all of the positions that I've been in, and with all of the people that I've had to deal with, the biggest problem in all of them is that, in my opinion, people can't think. People don't know how to think. They don't have the skills of thinking. They've never learned the skills of thinking. And I'm assuming they have never been taught the skills of thinking. Nobody has taught them how to think. Where do you want to go from there?
Okay, I understand. Thinking is a big job for me. It's very, so life is tough. So we have to survive, and we have to thinking. I agree. But now what I want to do is how to catch the eyes from the important people in the government. For example, I told you Mr. Guo Wengui. If we want to write some letters to name, tell the truth.
Because I'm not sure I understand that. But
I'm sorry.
Because people don't have thinking skills, they actually have done very little thinking. And because of that, in my opinion and from my observation, people have an astounding lack of integrity. They don't even understand what integrity is. And besides that, people don't understand ethics. And that is maybe even more surprising because a lot of people have some kind of religious background. I know people who are Christian, people who are Muslim, people who are Buddhist, people who are Hindu, people who are Taoist, and people claim, and sometimes rather vociferously and angry, that I am Christian, or I am Muslim, or I am Buddhist, or Hindu, or I am Taoist. And I find that if they are any of these things, that is not something that I want to be. Because in too many cases, my observation, however fair or unfair, however accurate or inaccurate, is that people have very little integrity and they don't understand ethics. As far as ethics go, it seems to me that people operate at the most basic level of morality, and that is, I will do this to avoid punishment, or I will do this to get a reward, which is exactly what our two dogs do. They operate on reward and punishment, and most people operate on the same principle. Many people who claim to be Christian are Christian because they are afraid that they're going to go to hell if they do something that they or somebody else considers to be bad, or they hope that they're going to go to heaven if they do something that people consider to be good. And they do these things for no other reason. And all religions have some notion of the golden rule, which in Christianity says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You will find the same rule in Islam, you will find the same principle in Buddhism, and you will certainly find the same principle in Taoism as taught by Lao Tzu. But most people don't understand what that means. They can quote it, they don't understand what it means. Immanuel Kant in the 1700s, the Danish philosopher, thought that he would try to explain what that meant. And he talked about something as he gave it the term, the categorical imperative. And he said that if you are prepared to apply something to yourself, then it should be such that it would apply to all other people at all other times. That you are not unique. You don't have any special moral privileges. If you can break a rule, then everybody should be able to break that rule. You live in such a way that you would want other people to live in precisely the same way. So that was a definition of ethics as provided by Immanuel Kant, or Kant. People would find on the internet, on a number of websites, some information by an American professor by the name of Lawrence Kohlberg, and he talks about levels of morality, or it can be interpreted as levels of ethics. So before somebody is going to sit down and write a letter to a politician, regardless whether that politician is in Canada or the United States or Russia or China, wherever, maybe the person should look at himself and try to do a little bit of self-examination. For example, do I have any self-respect? If what I'm going to do now is put before me in a year's time, will I still be able to look in the mirror and say that was a good thing? Or if I do something now, will I in 5 years' time be able to say that which I did was the best thing that I could have done? That was the right thing to do. And if we are not able to answer that question, then it's a matter, I guess, of admitting to ourselves, I don't know right from wrong. And I think because we all claim to be of some religious persuasion, even if that is atheistic or agnostic or fundamentalist Christian or Roman Catholic or somebody like me, or whether that is somebody who proclaims Islam or Hinduism, or somebody who claims to be an adherent of one of the 4 major denominations of Buddhism, for example, or whether someone claims to be Taoist. Everybody has some kind of philosophical, even if not religious background. And one supposes that we learned the difference between right and wrong. If not from a temple or a church or a mosque, maybe we learned it at our father's knee or in our mother's arms when they said, that is not the right thing to do. In fact, that is the wrong thing to do. We have to learn to do right from wrong. Many people will look down their noses at a woman or a man who is trying to make a living on the street. They sell their bodies because they have to eat. They are prostituting their bodies. And I have heard many, many people to be very, very critical of people who are prostitutes. Yet these very same people would not hesitate to take $100 from a politician and say to the politician, I will vote for you because you gave me the $100. That person was being a prostitute. I have a lot more respect for the lady on the street who has to sell her body in order to feed herself and her children than I have for the person who would sell his or her integrity for however much money, for whatever it is that the person is prepared to do for the bribe. If you take a bribe for whatever reason, you're being a prostitute. That's what prostitution is.
It's great. May I say something? Then you continue.
Of course.
我得抱歉一下啊，是这样子的，因为之前呢，就是为了我先生，因为临时叫他过来帮我，所以我大概告诉他的那个关于这个那个藤标的事情，也就是说，他们写非常这种一堆的谎言给那个美国政府，抹黑那个郭文贵先生，因为呢，我先生和我其实在这个郭文贵先生爆料的整个过程中，我们都是一直非常关注的，所以他心里是特别的痛心，所以他前面讲的这一番话，我想他是针对一些人违背良心，去做一些这种龌龊的事情，所以他以他的经历了他的这种信仰，他无法接受这样子的事情，所以其实他刚才在这边他是非常的难过和生气，为这个我还告诉他是藤标还是个律师，所以他是非常的震惊，所以他刚才讲的前面一番话，请大家理解，就是我问的话题呢，他可能延伸的跳的比较就是说的比较深一点啊。行 ，OK， 可以continue。
most people don't stop to consider the consequences of their behavior.
Yeah.
And many, many times I have heard people say to me, particularly in a counseling situation, well, I didn't know that would happen. If I had known that would happen, I wouldn't have done it, or maybe I wouldn't have done it. The fact is that we are responsible for our behaviors, and we are also responsible for the consequences of our behaviors. And sometimes this is stupidity. One man whose wife had died several months earlier came to me for counseling, and he was distraught, and he was grief-stricken, and he felt guilty that he had not treated his wife properly. And he said to me, had I known she was going to die, I would have treated her better. We are all going to die. We have to consider the consequences. We can't repair our mistakes after we die. And every one of our behaviors have consequences. A man, a poet, I believe it was Alexander Pope, wrote a poem, and he called the poem "No Man is an Island." In other words, we are all connected to each other. We all have a responsibility for and to each other. And if we're going to grow as individuals and as a society, regardless of the society, whether that is in Canada, where I live, or in the United States, where I lived for some years, or whether that is in China, where I lived for a short period of time, we have responsibilities to each other. And if we are going to communicate with politicians or people in authority, then we have to do some thinking. For example, am I going to write in Canada, Member of Parliament, simply because I am angry? Does my anger give me some kind of righteousness? Some time ago, I heard a man say, other people don't know the depths of my passion. And he thought that because, I suppose, he was feeling passion that he had never felt before, and so I think he was surprised by his passion. But a person's passion, however strong, is not a substitute for thinking. And a person's anger is not a substitute for thinking. And a person's wanting to seek revenge is not a substitute for thinking. And a person's ignorance of history is not a substitute for thinking. We have a responsibility to know the facts. So before, in the specific case of you saying, if you were going to write a letter to a politician, in fact, in the last couple of months, I have written several letters to my representatives, both in my provincial government and in the federal government. And in fact, I have written 2 letters to the Prime Minister of Canada in the last several months. But in none of them have I done so because I was angry. In none of them did I do so because I had an axe to grind. In none of them was I particularly feeling self-righteous. But I thought there were issues that needed to be addressed calmly and coolly. One of them being the fact that here where I live, I am not being recognized for my ancestry. Because in Canada, how Canada is treating its Aboriginal people, and I am substantially Aboriginal, is atrocious. I'm not pointing the finger at another country. But the fact is, I'm using this as one particular aspect of life, and that is Canada's Aboriginal peoples have not been treated well. Neither have the Aboriginal peoples in the United States been treated well. And in many cases, the Aboriginal people have not even been recognized as being Aboriginal. We don't exist. So that has to be addressed. That has to be addressed coolly. It has to be addressed rationally. It has to be addressed logically. Anger serves no purpose. I don't have an axe to grind. I'm not trying to get even with anybody. But there is an issue there that needs to be addressed. In the Second World War, there was a Lutheran Christian pastor who wrote a poem, and I've seen it in several versions. And when I talk about we have a responsibility to each other, he was talking about how the Nazis had treated people. He said, first, they came for the Jews, but I wasn't a Jew, so I did nothing. And then they came for the communists, but I wasn't communist, so I did nothing. And then they came for the labor agitators, but I had nothing to do with the labor agitators, so I did nothing. And then they came for me. And there was nobody else to come to my assistance. We stand off and don't take responsibility at our own peril. But that has to be done thoughtfully, rationally. And in order to do that, and it has to be done ethically. In order to do that, we have to learn how to think. We have to learn what ethics means. And we have to be able to think. And we must be prepared to behave ethically. Do you want me to continue?
Yes, of course.
I've talked about thinking skills. There are numerous books available where people can teach themselves thinking skills. And sometimes the books are called thinking skills. The books might be called analytical thinking, And a book that I've had for many, many years is called, let me see, okay, Critical Thinking. Critical thinking is not a good term. It's unfortunate, really, that somebody used the term critical thinking, because it's not primarily about criticism. It's about thinking. So it should be called analytical thinking, which would be the most appropriate term. So I think that every person has a responsibility to teach oneself, if you can't do a course. Now, of course, at any university, you will get a course in thinking skills, all kinds of them available. Maybe it might be through the philosophy department, but most people are within walking distance of a university. So I would recommend that you do a course on thinking skills, or you could do a correspondence course or an online course in thinking skills. The other thing that I would recommend is that you learn what it means to be ethical and the responsibility for that you have to yourself, for your own self-respect, for your integrity, and the responsibility that you have to others. I just picked up this book. It's Thomas Merton, and he has a book, No Man is an Island, where he picks up Alexander Poet's the title of his poem. All of this comes back to, I think, having a philosophy of living. In other words, you have to say, before I go to bed at night, I will look in the mirror and I will be able to say, I did nothing to hurt anybody today. I did nothing to hurt anybody today. And if inadvertently I might have hurt someone, then I have tried to repair my mistake, because it would have been a mistake. And keep in mind, if somebody offered me a bribe to do, makes no difference what it was or what it is, if somebody offers me a bribe, that person is saying to me, I don't respect you. I think you are a whore. I think you are a prostitute. And because I think you are a whore, because I think you are a prostitute, I think you will do what I'm asking you to do if I give you a bit of money. I'm going to offer you $100. So I think that you will sell your soul for $100. People who would do that have no integrity. They have no self-respect. They haven't got the first notion of ethics. They don't understand what it is to take responsibility for themselves or for somebody else.
May I say something?
Yes.
Explain to them. 是这样子的，因为今天呢，就是上午的时候，我看了那个易子先生关于60民运人士所做的一些非常丑陋的事情，包括这些所谓的这个民运大佬，柴玲等等。然后我尝试的告诉了我的先生，所以他今天一天心情就非常的沉重。他其实很早就想，就说 做这个，因为我们今天早上一早起来就探讨这个事，就是我问他，因为我看完以后心里很难过，然后我就问他是不是到底是我们中国人这个特殊的人种出问题了，是我们的民族性问题还是什么着的？我给他解释怎么一个回事儿。所以他有很多话想讲，我相信他很激动，因为他非常爱我们的中国，非常爱我们的中国人，他视为自己的那个祖国似的，所以他刚才一直在尝试说明，比如说我告诉他李红锁的事儿，他说这个就是因为他的生气，他已经让他已经没有逻辑，没有任何的这种道德底线，就是他这种使得他已经陷入这种混乱的状态。然后我告诉他这个民运的这整件事情的话，他说还是由于我们没有去思考你到底要过什么样的一个人，你到底是什么样的人，你是否能够保持你的道德操守等等，他刚讲的非常多，大家可以好好去思考一下。他是从一个就是西方人的角度，同时也在中国待了几年，然后今天又听了我讲的这个关于民运的这些为民运的所做的这些事儿，然后又告诉他了关于滕彪先生的这个事，滕彪这个所谓的律师写的信，还有很多的海外民运人士居然写信给这个政府这个撒谎，所以对他来说是非常震惊无法接受的。所以他今天就讲了很多关于他的观点啊。Okay, you can continue.
Before a person undertakes to do something based on some information, ask yourself, where is this information coming from? Is this reliable information? Is it accurate? Is it a half-truth? Somebody has said accurately, a half-truth is worse than a damn lie. I agree. Is the source of your information a trusted source? How do you know? Does the person providing the information to you have an ulterior motive? Can you think through the source? Can you think through the purpose of the information? Keep in mind, if you think that you are immune to being duped, the people in Germany during World War II murdered about 30 million Jews. They murdered 30 million Jews. Frequently, it was their next door neighbor. It made no difference whether they were men, whether they were women, whether they were girls, whether they were boys, whether they were babies. People in Germany murdered over 30 million people. The Japanese invaded China, and the Japanese murdered, God only knows. I've heard estimates of the number of Chinese that were murdered by the Japanese to be maybe as high as 50 million people. 50 million innocent people. So and if you think of Pol Pot in Burma, I think, he and his people murdered half of the population of that country. So when you stop to think about what we are capable of doing, we have an enormous responsibility to ourselves and to each other. I don't understand how it is that we are able to do such things to other people. And the only difference between us and other people might be the language that we speak. Our skin color may be the same. The color of our eyes may be the same. The color of our hair may be the same. There is no difference in people. When the Germans were killing the Jews, they didn't see themselves as killing their brothers and sisters. When the Japanese were murdering the Chinese, they didn't see themselves as murdering their brothers and sisters and parents. And those people who were murdering the Jews and those people, the Japanese, who were murdering the Chinese, would not have thought, wouldn't let the thought enter their minds that they might murder their own family. But that's what they were doing. We are all one family. There is no difference in people. I spent 3 absolutely wonderful years in China, and they were family. They were family. And I pain when I read about what happened in Nanjing, or Nanking, how the Japanese destroyed the city and murdered 5 or 6 million people in that one city alone. I pained as much for those people because they were my family, as much as I would pain for my own mother and father and brothers and sisters. The Jewish theologian Martin Buber has written a wonderful book. It's a short book. It's a little difficult to read, even in English translation, but it's worth trying to read. And Martin Buber says we have to develop a relationship with each other that is beyond I and you. Because when we say you, we are putting you out there. We have to develop a relationship, which he calls I and thou. And when he talks about thou, what he means is that I embrace you as my own. So that if you are paining, then I am paining. If you are in need, then it is my need. That is the kind of responsibility that I have to you, and the kind of responsibility that we have to each other. So before we go writing letters, make sure that we are able to think about what we're doing. Make sure that our facts are indeed facts. Make sure that we know why we are doing it. Make sure we know what the consequences are, because we are responsible for the consequences of our behaviors. We cannot, at a later time, say, well, I didn't know, or I didn't understand. It is our responsibility to know. It is our responsibility to understand. We should know our history. We should know world history. We should know the history of our own country. We have an enormous responsibility if we're going to take it up on ourselves to insert ourselves in the political process or the economic process or the social process or whatever it is. we should know the situation. And we should be able to look in the mirror and say to ourselves, what I did was right, and it can be demonstrated objectively that it was right. This is not merely an opinion. This was the right thing to do. It is always the right thing to do. And in 100 years, it will be shown that that was a right thing to do. That's called being ethical. That's called having self-respect. That's called having integrity. Maybe that's enough.
Yes, thank you so much.
You are most welcome.
Yeah. 然后我就接着做一个小结吧。其实呢，我刚才跟那个我先生又探讨了一点，他说其实最重要的还是真，就你写的东西一定要真实的，一定要真诚的。你至于语法错了没关系，你至于字错了没关系，但是要发自你内心的，这个是最重要的。只要你会思考，只要你写的是真话，就会引起大家的注意。那个这些伪类们，这些事情呢，引发了他对这个做人的这个思考。所以他刚讲了，我就不重复了。然后我讲一下我自己的一些观点，就说，我们在写这封信的时候，或者写，首先你要自己愿意，你要是主动的想有这种冲动。如果你只是说，勉强的这个，你就写不出发自内心的话。其次呢，就是你在写，一般来说，就我的经验哈，在那个郭文贵先生当时在还正在申请正批的时候，我先生和我就非常担心，但是我就上网就搜索了所有的政要的名单啊，议员的著名的主持人啊，记者啊，著名媒体，然后就都给他们写非常简短的，就是我就想说的一些非常简短的话，然后我主要是要链接有中英文的这种关于郭文贵先生媒体报道郭文贵先生的这些那个新闻地址，这个链接的一个地址，这是我一般做的事。因为你写再多，人家看不了，但是他可以看到新闻里面有报道这件事情，这很重要。第二个就是在写的这个这种我的意思说，你写的要真，就是不要假。什么不要假的，就是说比如说去抄的呀，或者是去那种就是说不是完全你的想法，人家能够一样看出来的。你哪怕你写的是中文式的英文，人家也知道哦，你这是中国人写的，是真实的，对吧？所以总而言之，就一句话，你一定要写的真实的、真相的、真诚的，这样子就会足以引起大家的注意。这样子，至于是否这个有的人现在就是比较喜欢做这种签名，就是大家写一份然后签名的话，其实说实话，老外他们现在也变聪明了啊，对这个签名这种联名的这些东西，他都会也变得非常慎重的。因为我们中国人喜欢做这种事情，什么联名签名啊之类的，然后有的都是假的，然后有的是花钱的，所以签名不签名，是否联名这都不重要，关键是说我们自己告诉他我真实的想法，哪怕就一句话或者2句话，告诉真实想法，链接一个媒体的报道，2个媒体的有关的报道，这样子的话，他们就会引起足够的重视，这是一个。然后呢，我再讲一下，就是说我首先要感谢非常多的那个网友朋友对我的支持。这个瑞安平漫谈我才几天时间，就是引起了挺多朋友的这种关注和那个鼓励，都是这非常吃惊。每次我先生都要问我，你有没有收到什么 说你的骂你的，因为以前老是不收到骂人，可是我非常惊讶是，我自从做了瑞安平漫谈以后，没有一个骂声，也没有一个五毛，估计也就是还不够引起注意，反正就说感觉非常好啊，虽然累一些，但是感觉非常非常的好，就像是拉家常一样，给大家讲一些我的一些感受。那我大概说一下我瑞安平漫谈呢，就是我也欢迎大家可以去点击我们那个漫谈瑞安平的这个YouTube， 然后呢，我的这个分成3个系列，一个是叫做沧海石珠，它是来自于沧海遗珠的这个成语。就是告诉大家，就是一个人的思想是有限的，所以我呢就尝试的去寻找一些真实的珍珠式的、闪闪发亮的这种言辞、idea 想法和这种信息来跟大家分享。这是第一个系列。第二个系列是人间百态，人间百态是就是说，通过那个。我们自己身边的一些事情，还网络上发现的一些事情，结合那个郭文贵先生的爆料的经历，然后就是尝试的说一些一些人生感悟吧，就是各种各样的有丑的有美的这种behavior 行为啊各方面。第3个是最重要的，是我这个瑞安平漫谈中的一个环节，就是文贵先生文贵爆料革命这一栏，这栏里面就是涵盖了对文贵先生爆料的这整个过程，就是点点滴滴的这种经过和思考，还有延伸的一些事情发生的事儿。就总而言之，就是说，但是我想告诉大家，无论是海外的还是这个墙内的同胞们，首先你一定要注意自我保护，你一定要注意保护自己的家人和你自己的隐私啊、安全，安全，安全，这是第一位啊、我们不希望就是说有这个苍天有眼这样的事情发生，因为这太让人痛心的。我相信这也是文贵先生最不愿意看到的。我相信文贵先生他知道有这么多人的支持他，他心里非常明白，但是他不愿意任何人就是发生这种类似的悲剧。所以大家在做任何事情的时候，一定要在保证自己安全的情况下，也不用要轻易的这什么露脸啊什么之类的。我这个是因为是躲在这么老远的这个加拿大的那个深山老林里面，自己还养了2只狗，然后还有自己还猎枪，还跟那个周围的邻居都说了，我现在在介入一些这个政治的事情，有可能有一些危险，大家都非常的保护我，所以我自己非常注意这种安全的这个方面的问题，而且基本上我觉得大概没有可能说这个我会离开这个地方，直到什么喜马拉雅，哪怕是10年20年，可能我都不一定会去离开这里，轻易去离开哪个地方去了。所以我是有条件在做这件事情，我们的这边生活成本比较低，然后我自己可以足够让自己生活的还可以，就是没什么问题，没有大的问题，然后我跟我的先生过的日子就是比较平稳，没有什么这个，所以我们做这些事是有条件有前提的，是吧？所以大家做一些事情一定要保全你自己的安全，保全你自己的实力，保全家里的，多和孩子家里人在一起，然后就是顺便在业余的时间，在有空隙的时间去关注这个社会政治这些方面，去关注这个郭文贵先生的爆料，然后去考虑自己思考就是这样子的啊。所以今天呢，我就说的比较长了，感谢大家那个浪费大家那么多的时间，谢谢大家，